Welcome, Kristina, to our show today. It is so great to meet you in person on Zoom for the first time ever. How are you doing
I'm
today?
doing really well, thank you.
So, Kristina, tell us where you're at right now. Where are you? And what
So
time is it?
I'm currently in Devon in the UK and it is 6:15 in the evening.
6:15 in the evening, and I'm in Los Angeles, and I'm actually in my man cave. You may see some guitars around here. It's a little different. We're doing the show from a different location. This is a really original, special moment right now because this is the first time on our show that we're interviewing somebody, Kristina. Kristina and I have actually never even seen each other on a screen, nor have we talked on a phone or we I think we did what, two chats on or three on
Yeah.
Instagram. And I said, you know what, let's keep it like that. Let's keep it a surprise. Let's get to know each other during this interview. So this is exciting. We're just gonna go through this. So Kristina, tell us, you messaged me on the Dimples chat, and tell us what you're doing. Because you're getting quite active on Instagram. Tell us how, why, what. Tell us all about that.
Okay, so I've had alopecia for about 23 years now. It's only really been this year that I've been comfortable with my hair loss. So it's taken me a long time to get to this stage. And I heard about Instagram and there was a nice wig community and hair loss community. So I thought I'd try it out. And actually it's been such a massive change for me, brought out a completely different outlook on my alopecia. So since meeting wonderful people on the Instagram wig community pages, I've changed so much, and my outlook on alopecia as a whole has changed. It's been a really amazing journey, actually. So it's only been this year that I've really felt comfortable with my hair loss, and it's been about 3 months since I started showing myself bald on Instagram, so it's not been long at all.
Whoa, so it's been 3
Yeah.
months, and 3 months out of 22 years. First of all, what shocks me is you said you look like you're 20 years old. Like, how is this
No.
possible? I'm not asking your age.
I
No,
don't
we're not going to do that on the
think
show.
that is fine. So I'm 38. I started losing my hair at 15. So yeah, so it's been a long journey.
Well, first of all, 38, you do not look
Thank you.
38. God, like we want to know your secret elixirs that you use later on, to look like 18 years younger than you are. 38 minus 23 is 35. So 25. No, wait.
Yes.
15. So since you were 15, you first started getting out. Was it did it start off as areata? Or was it all at
it
once?
just slowly started falling out all over. So never really any patches. It was just very gradual. It didn't come out in one hit. It took years of torment. So it was a very gradual process.
So years of torment. So 15 years old, you're a teenager in England, and who was the first person you told?
I think the first person that noticed was my sister, and she was quite concerned because we'd never really thought about hair loss and alopecia, and which was quite shocking. So that I hadn't actually really noticed it myself until that point. And that was the point where I thought, okay, something's not right here. I think I need to talk to someone about this. But it didn't take, it took until my sister mentioned it for me to actually notice, if that makes sense.
Is your sister older or younger
She's older.
than you? And so you're the first time you didn't notice, somebody else noticed.
Yeah.
What did you feel? What happened?
Well,
what happened?
I think I was quite embarrassed about it because I really hadn't thought about it myself because it'd been so gradual, like I said, and I didn't really think that I had any issues until she said that, and then that's when I started thinking, yeah, I think maybe I have got the problem.
So 15 years old was when it started. And was there anything going on in your life around that time that you remember that was stressful
Yeah, there
or
was quite a lot going on. I
memorable?
think school in general is quite hard as a teenager. I was bullied a lot at school. So I think that contributed, but also my stepmom was diagnosed with cancer and it was terminal. So I think that was the time I found that very stressful. And that's when it started to fall out. So I would say it was a stress trigger.
Was it so the bullying, when did the bullying start?
So the bullying started, I think, a year previously. So it'd been ongoing and constant. So I think I'd just had enough. I think I was just so stressed with it. I ended up not going to school because of it. I think it really did impact my hair at the time.
So you were not going to school before the hair loss came from the
Yeah.
bullying. This is so fascinating because we interviewed Marcy from the Art of Alopecia, and she was actually bullied, but you know, when her hair loss became apparent at school. But before your hair loss came in, you around 14 years old, was it the boys or the girls that were
Mainly
bullying?
girls that were bullying.
Oh boy, yeah, kids can be cruel. Kids can be cruel. I've experienced some of that. Did you change schools? Were you in the same school? Like how did you react to the, I'm asking like three questions at once, but how did you react to the bullying first off?
So I first of all I told my dad, and he went to the school, and the school didn't really want to deal with the bullies, so they allowed me to drop half of my GCSEs, which is crazy looking back at it. So I just went to school on the days where I was in classes without the bullies. So it wasn't really not the best way of solving a problem, because I ended up not doing all the GCSEs I wanted to do. Yeah, so I still went to school. I just avoided the classes where the bullies were, basically.
How many bullies were there?
Well, there's one main one, and then her little friends group. So it was spread over a friendship group.
Wow, that's really sorry to
It's
hear
okay.
that.
It was a long time
Um,
ago.
But it's really sweet how you were comfortable enough to tell your dad, and your dad stuck up for
Yeah,
you, and you went and told the headmaster, or as in America we call it the
yeah.
principal, the headmaster, and but they didn't do anything about it. They didn't want to address it. That's
I
not
think
cool.
looking back at it, if I was like the parent, I probably would have said, "Hang on, this is probably not the right way of doing it." But back then, I didn't think anything of it as a 14-year-old teenager. I probably thought, "This is great. I don't have to go to those lessons anymore." But yeah, I think it probably wasn't the best idea from the head teacher.
Did you ever run into those girls later on in life?
So weirdly, the main instigator, she added me on Facebook, and I couldn't believe it. I didn't accept, but I do wonder why she added me. I have got that curious. I just don't know why she did, but yeah, maybe she wanted to say sorry. I don't know, but
When did she add you
only a few years ago.
or
Quite
try
a
to
few.
add
It
you?
was probably a couple of years ago now. So as adults, yeah, I
Right.
just didn't feel like I needed
I
to add her.
Yeah, good. Good for you. Good for you. So if you could be that, I'm just, this is so interesting. That 14-year-old girl with what you know now, if you could say what you really wanted to say
Yeah.
now to those girls, or the ringleader and those girls, what would you say?
Well, I'd ask her why she did it, really, because when I look back at it, the reasons were very petty. I don't know why she felt the lengths to go to bully me. I'd just ask why.
Do you have any idea why, what you could
Well,
speculate
at
why
the time it
somebody
was.
would treat someone so
Yeah,
badly?
well, I think it was, looking back, it was jealousy because her ex partner at the time was my partner after. So I think it was jealousy, or she just wasn't over her ex partner.
Ah, okay. Now this is really getting juicy. All right. This is fantastic. So her
Yeah,
ex-partner became your
Yeah.
partner, and that's at 14, and that's when it started. So, gosh, yeah, she must have been really jealous and really resentful that your partner picked you, you know, or you picked each other, you know. Wow. So,
It just seems
pardon?
very petty to go to those lengths.
Oh yeah. I mean that is really petty. I mean that's a really deep resentment. And then to bring other people involved
Yeah,
in it. I'm sorry you had to go through that.
it is what it is.
14 and 15, you started to get hair loss, and you said your stepmom had cancer as well at the
Yeah.
same time.
Yeah, she was actually terminally ill, so it was
Mm.
really hard because you come home from school and you'd see all the medication out, and she just looked gradually get iller and iller as time went on, and it was just, I think for a 15-year-old or 14-year-old, it's a hard thing to deal with, especially if you're quite close. I think that's probably the main instigator because it was just an awful thing to witness.
And did you have to help and take care of her as
Yeah,
she
to a
was in
point.
her?
She was originally from the Philippines and she decided to go home and spend the rest of her life there. So in the late stages of her cancer, I didn't have to look after her, but when she was with us, I certainly did.
So that's a tremendous pressure on a teenage girl. You know, you're going to school, you got these unkind
Yeah,
people around you, and then you know, to get home to safety, but then you got to take care of your mum, your
yeah.
stepmom. You know, like when did you get time for yourself? Do you have posters on your walls? Was it New Kids on the Block?
Posters.
No posters, right?
Loads of tea.
You had you had
Yeah,
loads of posts. You had
yeah.
posters?
Free tea. Do you ever
What
free
posters did you
tea?
have?
Free tea?
3T?
They were Michael Jackson's nephews.
What? I've never heard of
Free
them.
tea, yeah. I love them.
That's that's
Yeah,
incredible. So you had that. So you had a poster or more posters of 3T?
multiple. Yeah,
Multiple. Did you have any other posters?
not really, no. I shared it with
My
my sister. She
sis.
had half the wall, so she had, I think it was Peter Andre, and then I had my side.
Uh-huh. Any Robbie Williams in there?
No, I think I
No,
might have
didn't
had a
make
take
it.
that, maybe
Gosh,
one poster of take that
take that.
at the beginning, but no, that fizzled out.
Take that. My sister, she's 8 and a half years older than me, and growing up in the 80s, I'm
Yeah.
43, and she had posters, and her posters, she had George
Oh wow.
Michael,
Yeah.
Wham, you know, it was all about Wham, and she was in love with George Michael, and it was
I
before
was
he
gonna
came
say
out,
she
you
got
know,
upset.
everybody, thought he was, didn't know. Nobody knew, right? And then I remember like when he did come out, she was like, ah, so disappointed, like as if she would
Yeah.
get to, go out with him or something. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, come on.
Oh,
But I'm sure many others
yeah,
were
I'm
too.
sure they were.
But yeah, she had those posters, and yeah, so you had your side of the room, your sister had her
Yes.
side of the room with the posters. Were your beds on either
Yes.
sides, or were you in bunk
Yeah, they were
beds?
either side as well.
Okay,
Very
I had the bunk
separated.
bed. I was
It was very
pardon?
separated.
Oh,
Side,
was
her
it?
side.
So you must have been pretty, well, you're physically close with your
Yeah, well, it
sister. You
was,
must have
yes.
been,
Yeah.
so that's 14, that's 15, and then so then your mum went to the
Yeah.
Philippines, and then so your hair started coming out gradually. Was there a time when did you go see any doctors? Did you go talk to anyone about it to find out what it was? Because 15 years ago, no, wait, not 15 years ago, that's more,
Yeah.
20
Yeah.
something years ago. Yeah, Google was rubbish
It
back
was.
then. Was there even Google? There was no information really. It's probably no, how on earth, wow, there was no information like there is today. There was no Instagram, there were no Facebook groups, nothing. So where did you start? What did it look like?
going to the GP. So went to the GP. They referred me to a dermatologist. But I was probably about 17, 18 when I started to actually think I need to do something now. What is this?
Hmm.
What have I got? I didn't understand
Hmm.
what it was. So I think it was about, yeah, probably about 17 that I went to see a dermatologist. And they said I had alopecia. And they said there's no cure. It might come back, it might not come back. So it was one of those very much, there is no cure for this. So it was quite a big shock.
What was it? What was going on in your body when you heard that?
I just thought, really? I thought in my head, I was thinking, when I'm feeling better, when I'm not so stressed, it would come back. Yeah, so to hear that it was probably going to be permanent was a big shock.
Did you ever think there's got to be a magic pill
I did, and I think I
or
went
something?
through that as well. And I think there was something available, and I think it's still available. That suppresses your immune system, but I just didn't want to go there personally. I'm not I've got quite a few problems health wise anyway, so I didn't think that was appropriate for myself. But I understand why someone would take it if they were given the option.
So the first time you went to see
Yeah,
somebody about your hair coming, losing hair, they told you there and then there's no
yeah,
solution.
basically,
There's never going to
yeah,
come back. I've heard lots of stories. This is the first time I've ever heard a dermatologist say in that first session,
yeah.
which is almost like a blessing from the stories I've heard, because I've heard all different, steroid
Yeah, no,
injections, uh, other like cancerous chemotherapy injections. I heard of all kind of pills.
I don't know if it's because it's so long ago. I don't
See,
know. They just they offered me the
mm,
immunosuppressant drug, and that was it. And I said no because I knew I didn't want to try that. But so that, yeah, they were quite honest with me and said there's very small chance of it coming back, but probably not.
what's the immunosuppressant
I don't
drug?
know
Can
what
you
it's
tell us
called
a bit more
now, but I
about that?
think it's still available. So it's the same thing they
Yeah.
give patients with psoriasis. I can't remember what it's called, but they still offer it, and I know people do still use it.
So I take it it's like a prescription
Yeah.
drug, and is it a pill?
Yes.
Is it a pill
Yes.
or okay? Is it a big
I
pill or a
I
small
don't know.
pill?
I haven't seen it, but
Oh,
yeah. So
I'm
yeah,
joking.
I'll let you know.
Yeah. So you decided not to
Yeah.
take it, okay? And you left the dermatologist, and then what? What on the drive? Do you remember the drive home or the bus ride? However you got home, like what was going on in your head? Were you quiet? Were you talking to someone about it? How did you
I went
react to
with my
that?
now husband. I think I was just in shock, really. I don't think it really sunk in. I think it took a long time for it to actually sink in. So at the time, I don't think I really believed what they said, or it hadn't really sunk in. So I think it took a lot longer than that journey home for me to understand the severity of it. I think it took a long time for me to actually, yeah, get my head around.
So it sounds like you may have been a bit of shock at first, and then how long did it take to sink in to like get down to the feelings of what was going on?
I would say it's taken me a long time to get to where I am now. So I think it did take years, really did take years for me to get my head around the concept of it. And like you said earlier, there really wasn't much around. There was no internet for me to really Google it. I didn't have any people that I knew who had it, so I couldn't talk to anyone. So I think it did take me a lot longer to actually process it than maybe it would now if it happened to me now.
So just to put this into perspective for anyone who's listening who is younger and has was born with an iPhone in their hand, and social media. Um, when Christina was 17 or 18, 15, 14, when you got lost, you had to like actually ask someone for directions, go to a petrol station or a gas station, or roll your window down and like wave to the next car, like, hey, do you know how to get to so and so? And like have it written down on a piece of paper. So just imagine like there's no community.
No, there was no one.
There was no alopecia community back then,
No, there
right?
was no one. Yeah, I literally knew no one who had alopecia, so it was very difficult for me to even ask anyone, really.
God. So that actually makes a lot of sense as what you were saying before, how you were saying that it was a gradual process, took a long time for the shock to go away. You didn't have any buddies, you didn't have any hair buddies, as I
Nobody's
hear everyone's got one now, right?
buddies.
No hair
No.
buddies. But you had your husband, right? Your husband took
Yes.
you, and you is okay. Is this the same
No.
partner?
No.
No, okay, all
It
right.
wasn't worth it.
All right, all right. Okay, not that one. Okay, okay, cool. All right. So your husband, so you must have got married
Yeah,
quite
we
young.
did. So we met at 16, and then
Wow.
we married at 19, believe it or not.
All right. So very shortly after that partner that the bully was so jealous over
Yeah.
you, you met your
Yeah.
husband.
Yeah. So from 15 to 16, I did. I don't know. Obviously, it's a bit different, the schooling system in the USA, but I finished high school and then I didn't do my A levels there. I went into college and did my A levels at college. So I was completely away from the bullies, which was great. And I met my husband at college.
Right.
So he didn't go to the same school.
What college, you met your husband at
Yeah.
college and you were at the same college. What college
So
was
that
that?
was the Isle of Wight College.
Whoa, Isle of Wight. Can you just explain to everyone like what and
Yeah.
where and about the
So the
Isle of
Isle of
Wight?
Wight is a little tiny island just off the south coast of England. It's a very small island. So I'm island born.
So not the Isle of Man, but the
The
Isle of
Isle of
Wight.
Wight.
The Isle of Man is a different one,
So the
right?
Isle of Wight is,
Between
yeah.
Ireland.
The Isle of Wight is the one that has the different coloured sands. It's what we're known for.
Wow. Wait, you were born on the Isle of
Yeah,
Wight and you went to college on the Isle of
yeah.
Wight and you met your husband on the Isle of Wight? Is it like a very small population in the Isle of I've actually
It's
never
not
known anyone from the
actually.
Isle of Wight.
It's
You
I
know,
think it's about 300,000 people.
oh,
It's
okay. That's a
quite
fair amount
sizable.
for if it's a small
Yeah.
island, right? But so you don't like recognize people when you're going
Well,
around
I don't live
places.
there.
I mean,
I
that's
don't live there
300,000. That's
anymore,
a lot.
so I might.
Oh, you don't
No.
live there anymore. That's right. You said
Yes.
Devon, right? Devon's
It is. It
gorgeous.
is. It's like the Isle of Wight. So, but yeah, so it is lovely.
So shortly after you were dating the
Yes.
partner of the bully that became your partner, you met your husband at 16, then you got married at 19. So 15, so 19 was probably around the time, yeah, and that's when you started to really discover, like, what is
Yeah.
this? So you went to that first dermatologist, and then what was the next step? What happened after that first
I think
dermatologist?
I've only ever
What came
seen that
next?
one dermatologist, as in to get a diagnosis. I think my first ever wig experience was my wedding day. It was a horrific wig because at 19 you don't really have any
Mm,
money to spend on anything. So I bought a cheap
mhm.
wig and I wore a hat on top. So that was my wedding day. So I'd like to redo my wedding day one day so I could wear nice hair. And then after that, I actually just wore a hat. Most of probably my early 20s, I wore a hat to cover my hair loss. Well, probably by the age of 21, I'd lost most of my hair, I'd say. So I wore a hat to cover it.
What you said you wore a hat at your wedding because the wig was so
Yes.
bad. But that was a great idea. That's a great
Yeah, that
solution.
was the only
You
solution
know,
I
you
could
must
think of at the time.
you must have been dying of
Yeah, I
heat.
was. Well, it was April, so I
Dying.
was pretty hot, yeah. I won't.
Because if you said an affordable wig, it must have been fully machine
Oh yeah.
made, which means like tracks, like if you don't know what machine made is, everyone, please like look it up. We're really trying to educate everyone. Hand tied versus machine made. Machine made are just like tracks, like extensions that you clip in your hair, but imagine them all around a whole wig. And there's no breathability. It doesn't breathe. And it was probably
Oh
synthetic hair,
yeah,
right?
yeah. definitely.
and a lot of hair too, and a hat on top. God, you poor
I'm
thing, it
sad.
must have been really
Yeah,
hot. So just to put this in perspective, Halloween time, I often take a wig out. I don't wear one of our human hair wigs,
yeah.
right? There's a machine made wig that I wear, and I think it was 2 or 3 years ago. I don't know if you've ever seen the show Physical. Everybody, please look at the show Physical. It's very, very good. It's actually about a woman based in the 80s, and it's about a woman, and she has an eating disorder, and it goes into her mind, and you hear her speaking in her mind about, look at you, you're so ugly, and it just does it so well. Anyway, I dressed up as her
Wow.
for
Okay.
Halloween, and I had a giant. Actually, I got two machine-made wigs and like pinned them together, and I wore this enormous curly wig, and I actually and I wore I ordered a swimsuit, like one of those one-piece women's swimsuits. I mean, I went all out, and my wife dressed as the other character. Anyway, so it was freezing. The Halloween party was outside, like kind of in the deserts here in California. There were heat lamps, everyone was freezing. I was wearing this swimsuit, okay, with like leggings, my wife's pregnancy leggings, right? And I had this like double machine made wig. I was not hot. I was not cold. I was not cold. Everyone was dying, like wearing multiple layers. I was wearing nothing, but this ginormous machine-made wig. Actually, I was sweating in it outside. So you wore that and a hat at your wedding, and then you wore hats in your
Just every,
20s, and
yeah.
then every day, like what kind of a hat?
So mainly a cap, yeah, a little cap. The time I took it off was when I got my first nice wig, and that's when I stopped. Yeah, yeah,
So English people are generally very nice. I'm from Manchester. I was born in Manchester. When you when I moved to America, I mean, what I'm getting at is I don't imagine anyone just saying anything to you, like why are you wearing a hat, right?
no, I don't remember.
Did anyone no
Maybe some of my friends
nobody
maybe would said it,
right.
and it was very obvious because my hair was so thin
Mm,
that it was very,
mm.
very scraggly. You could tell. I think it was quite obvious why I wore a hat, to be honest.
What did your friends say?
They didn't. A lot of them didn't really talk about it. I think maybe because no one knew what it was, people just didn't talk about it. So maybe if they did, I
But did
might have
they
felt more comfortable in myself. I don't know.
they might have been just being very polite. They didn't want to say anything. Like just another example. When I moved to America, I'd have my guy friends, lovely guys I'm still friendly with, but they would do something that English people would never
Yeah.
do. We'd go into the kitchen, and my American friends, they would just go and walk to the fridge and
Oh
open it.
wow.
Like look inside my fridge, and I was like, what are you
Yeah.
doing?
I'm gonna eat
You
your
know,
food.
like,
I'm gonna eat your
pardon?
food.
Oh, I'm just seeing what you got, yeah, I want to eat that, I mean, yeah, you can have it, but I don't know, just in England, like, no one would do that. You would just go through your cupboards and just like that. So I can imagine your
Mm,
friends, they just very polite. It's not very
no.
outspoken. I was from my experience in England. Everyone's very mature, especially as kids. I remember teenagers in England. They're very mature. Everyone's doing their GCSEs, A levels, O level. I didn't get to do that, thank God. But you've got your mates, your friends, and you're wearing a hat, and then you said you got your first good
Yeah.
wig. When
So
was that?
I moved to Devon. Still in a hat.
Hmm.
So we moved to Devon to because we wanted to go to university. Um, and I decided I wanted to try a wig because I'd heard of this amazing company that made the systems, the hair systems. So they would mold my head and make the hair system, and it was really expensive. Really couldn't afford it, but I really wanted to try it. So my husband and I went to London, had it fitted, and it was amazing. And I had my hair shaved off, and that was the moment. And I thought, wow, okay, this is massive. a massive deal for me because I just kept this one little bit of hair for years, like sentimental, really. I've still got that bit of hair. And yeah, so then that was the turning point in terms of wearing wigs.
And did you lose hair all over your body, or is it just on your head?
So I lost it everywhere. So yeah, all over my body. So I've got a few little bits of hair, a little bit of eyebrow hair, just where the hair just
Uh-huh.
wants to randomly pop out. It, but overall, yeah, I have most of my hair's gone.
And we interviewed Joe, who goes by the hashtag bold mother Tucker,
Yeah,
which is just hilarious. Her last name is Tucker, but it also, it's a pun. It's just so her.
yeah,
And she was explaining about having alopecia, losing every single hair on her body. Once in a blue moon, a hair would pop up in a random place.
yeah. It's normally like
Like
your forehead,
where?
your forehead or something like that, and you, why move down?
Yeah, yeah. Forehead. She said her big toe,
Yeah,
and
all the
and
places you
um,
don't want it, basically.
and it was the first time I actually heard somebody talk about the hair that no one talks about, like that we need, that has a function that I
Yes,
think lots of people take for granted, like nose hair
yeah,
and
definitely.
eyebrows
Yeah,
and eyelashes and
yeah,
like the actual natural function, like what they do. Like, can you tell us your experience?
yeah. So I'm really lucky. I have got my eyelashes, so I luckily I don't experience. I know what people feel because some they have fallen out before, and you get grit in your eyes. It feels like constantly got grit in your eyes. It's awful.
Mm.
I have lost my eyebrows, my arms. Weirdly, like people used to just rub my arms and say, "Your arms are so smooth." And it's a weird thing that people would just come up to you and rub your arm. Yeah, so ear hair and nostril hair, they're all there for a purpose. And yeah, so it's very strange not to have hair where you should have hair.
So the ear hair, I've not heard anything about the ear hair. Like the
Yeah,
nose hair, I heard there's a purpose for the nose hair because
yeah.
it helps like filter, like you don't get as much dust going up or so. Is that right?
Yeah, I think with the ear hair, because you have earwax, it helps
Mm.
protect your ears as well. So I don't know. I'm not an ear expert.
So what was it like? Do you remember like not having hair there and then going get then and then having hair there, then not having hair in your ears? Like, do you feel is
And
what
not
happens
really
with
in
your
my
ears?
ears, but like my eyebrows, for instance, that was really difficult because obviously everyone expects you to have eyebrow hair, and when I lost my hair, I didn't have the option to have tattooed eyebrows or things like that, and I just was obviously so young. It just looked very strange. I think losing off the eyebrows. I think that was probably one of the
Yeah, it probably wasn't that big back then.
no,
Now it's huge. The whole
yeah. Even like eyebrow
tattoo.
wasn't massive, so
Mm,
it was. I think that was probably the harder part of losing my hair, especially as it's facial as well. So it's very noticeable. Um, like I know a lot of people like bleach their eyebrows now, and to make it look like they haven't got any, and that just wasn't a thing back then. So definitely looked
mm.
well. I looked strange for the time, but yeah.
So that was the most, you were saying that was one of the hardest things, the eyebrows,
Yeah, well, obviously, I
losing
think
eyebrow.
the head was the worst, but for me,
The
I think
worst, yeah.
in terms of other parts of my body, probably the eyebrows, because they're so noticeable.
What happened to you when you were 14, 15, your mother, your stepmother, the bullying? Was there any other life events that were really heavy like that, in
Mm.
your later teens or early 20s?
I'm trying to think. So I had children really young as well. So I married my husband after I had my first son, and I think that's probably when the majority of my hair fell out was during that pregnancy. I also had I was awaiting cardiac surgery, so open heart surgery.
Wow.
Were really poorly during my pregnancy, and I think that's when probably the majority of my hair fell out, was during that pregnancy.
So you were pregnant, very young,
Yes.
and you had open heart surgery while you were pregnant?
No, so I had it straight. So I was 19 when I had my surgery, and I had my son at 18, so very young.
Oh,
Yeah.
my goodness.
So my child is very old now.
Well, okay, just say that again.
So
18 and then 19. Can you?
yeah, so he's 19 now, my son.
He, uh-huh.
Yeah, so
You look like brothers and sisters now because you look like you're 20.
yeah,
But
we have been told that.
wow.
Cringy sometimes, but yeah.
Wow. 19. So, okay, so 18 you had open heart surgery.
Oh, and 19, yes.
So 18 you had a son.
Yes. And then
Oh
19,
my
I had my open
God.
heart surgery. Yeah.
How soon, how was it, like 6 months later you had open heart surgery, or a year later after birth?
It's less than a year. So at the time, I think it was probably about 6 months, I would say.
6 months. I have a 6-month-old actually.
Yeah.
Part of the reason why I'm not in my office today yet. But I have a 6-month-old. So that's basically like my wife getting open heart surgery right now. That's what you experienced.
Yeah. And I wasn't allowed, the hardest part of it, believe it or not, was the fact that I couldn't pick him up. I wasn't allowed to pick him up because they open your chest. So it was quite stressful. Yeah, I think that was
Chris,
one of the
Chris,
biggest contributors for my hair loss as well.
you've really experienced what, probably Americans just would say, I don't know, they use this word trauma.
Yeah,
Like this is some really, really heavy things you've experienced in your life. It's within a 5-year period, really.
yeah,
4 years, 15 to 19, or 3 to 4 years. That
yeah.
was a really, really stressful moment. I'm really sad you had to go through that.
Yeah, I kind of look back at it and I just think it made me who I am now. So I don't regret things. I try to learn from things. So everything that's happened, I try to not spin a positive, but to appreciate what I've got, I suppose.
So by sharing what you've said, sharing the dark times, having a baby, and then wait, am I getting it mixed up? Having a baby, having a baby, then open heart surgery.
Yes.
All the listeners that are going to hear that, they're just going to be like, "Wow, who is this woman?
I just
Who is this woman?
I just feel like,
She did that."
yeah. Sometimes I feel like if you've got to do it, you've got to do it. So I didn't really have a choice.
I mean, I'm thinking that, who is this woman who is smiling and cheery and sweet, and nobody would ever imagine that you've been through that and you've done that, and there's ways to have appreciation. I think you said appreciation or gratitude before, and just naturally, and then there's also having gratitude based on comparing, like, whoa, look what she's been through, look what she's done, and look at where she is now. This is amazing. That a lot of people are going to be attracted by that.
Yeah, well, I just do what I do. I don't know how to react to that because I didn't have a choice. So I've learnt from it and come out the other side.
Yeah, I'm so glad I got to interview you. Holy moly, this is amazing. So what was the recovery like for the open heart
Yeah.
surgery?
It was 6 months. I was really poorly. I mean, just before the surgery, I was bedbound, which was really hard. So it took 6 months to recover from the surgery. But I actually married, I think I married about 6 months after the surgery.
Whoa. So I'm like, you've got the most incredible timeline. It's like 5 years. It's 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay. So 14, 15, mom, and then school, right? And then 14, 15, and then 16, you met your husband, right? And then 16, and then 17, what was it, was it 17 or 18?
Well, I had my son.
You had your son. Wait, yeah, you had your son, then you got married, and then you had the surgery.
Yes.
Wow. 17, 18, 19. Yeah. Wow. Amazing. So recovery was 6 months for
Yeah,
the surgery.
yeah.
Then you got married
Then I got married.
and you had a hat on and a wig.
Yeah,
Like
awful.
shortly after,
Yeah,
just after recovering,
yes, yeah,
just after recovering
yeah.
from a surgery. And were you able to pick up your son by then, by the wedding
By
time?
then, yes. So that was a good positive.
Did you have help
Yeah. So I had
during that
my,
6 month
my
period?
husband. He was my carer at the time because I was so poorly. So he was a really good help.
And so after you got married, you said sound like you've got more than one kid.
So I've got two. I had my second son at 21, so he's 17 now. So very old.
Nice.
Yeah, good ages.
Wow. My goodness. So 21 and now so then 17 years went by. Now you're 38. So tell me about any
In between.
during that 17, yeah, what was your journey with alopecia and family and health and all that?
So after my second son, I myself and my husband decided we were going to be mature students and go to university with two children. So we both went to university, been twice now. So so I originally did an animal science degree, which I loved. It was amazing, and completed that, and then couldn't find any jobs where I live in that field. So I went back to uni and I did a course in operating department practice, which is similar to a nurse. So I work in operating theatres. And that was basically because I really appreciated how I was treated in hospital, and I just wanted to give back to others.
Do you ever share the story of open heart surgery, baby, wedding, that period of time? Do lots of people know this, or is it
So
something
my
you don't share?
colleagues, well, they know because obviously they're friends with me on Facebook. But a lot of them, I've even had the comment on a few pictures. They see my son, they say, "Oh, what a beautiful couple you are." And it's just like, no. Yeah, it's quite funny. But yes, people know how old my kids are generally, so but yeah, not. I don't think everyone knows my whole story. They know parts of it.
What about now you're getting active on Instagram in the community? Do people know about you and about your story in the community?
No, I don't think they do. I had one lovely lady in the alopecia community notice my scar on some of my photos, and she actually approached me in my messages and asked what had happened, not in a horrible way, but in a more concerned way. And I explained that I'd had cardiac surgery because I've actually had two lots of surgery, cardiac now, so my scar's quite obvious. So I think a lot of people probably have noticed scar, but they've not asked. So I've only had one person ask me about that. So it's not something I'd go out my way to tell people. But yeah, so I've had one person ask.
You had two heart surgeries?
Yes. So one, I was actually 7, my first one when I was a child. So I had my
When you
first,
were 7 years old?
yeah. So my first lot of surgery was when I was 7.
What was it that brought upon that surgery when you were 7 years old?
So I started getting symptomatic breathlessness as a child. Originally, they said there was nothing wrong, and then so we didn't think anything of it. And back then, we had school nurses still in the UK, and someone she picked up that I had a heart murmur, and so I think really she did save my life, this nurse. So yeah, I wouldn't have known other than the breathlessness, and they'd already said there was nothing wrong with me.
Wow. So the breathlessness, was it just sitting down or was it when you were running and moving
Mainly
around? What
when I
was
was
it like?
yeah, mainly when I was running around. My dad even would carry me to school sometimes, so it was quite obvious, really.
Did they think you had like asthma or something? Did they try and give you those inhalers?
Originally, they thought it was a heart condition, but then I think I was misdiagnosed. And then when we went back, that's when they realised actually she has got something wrong with her.
So 7 year old, so 7, you had a open heart surgery,
Yeah,
and then my goodness, and then again at
routine. Yeah,
19. Wow.
yeah.
So that's That's incredible. So 20 to 38, you've got these two boys, and everyone thinks you're siblings or dating or something
Yeah.
because you look so young. You don't look like
I
you're
don't, when you
38, you
get
know.
close up, I don't.
But what do you say? I
So
didn't hear
when you
that.
get close up, I don't. There are wrinkles there. It's this good
I don't see
lighting,
anything.
obviously.
So, oh, and how are you with taking compliments? What does it feel? You must get compliments.
I'm not very good at compliments, actually. I get very embarrassed.
Why is that?
I think maybe because of the hair loss, and I've been self conscious about it for 22 years. So I think that might be why I'm only just now getting my confidence.
How are you getting your confidence just now?
I think it is through meeting people in the community. I think seeing other people's stories has really boosted my own confidence.
Are there any in particular, any stories or anyone that's really helped you?
I think there's so many amazing people on Instagram. Cheryl, she's literally this. I think the last few months, she's also just shown herself bald or with her hair loss, and that really inspired me. There's so many people on Instagram that I look at and I think, wow, you're amazing.
You got to introduce me to Cheryl, please. I want to meet
Yeah,
this
she's
Cheryl.
amazing. So
So,
she is such a lovely person as well, and most people are in the WIG community. I've noticed that everyone's so grateful and supportive of others, and I think if I had found that community earlier, then I could have got to this stage a little bit quicker. But unfortunately for me, it did take a little bit longer.
so we talked a lot about the external, the surgeries, the timelines, the having children and all that. But how has your mind been this whole time for all these years? Your mind, like
Yeah. So
does your mind, does,
my
go
mind
ahead.
as a teenager was awful. I had severe depression. It took me a long time to get over that. I did see a psychologist, counsellors. I still get really bad anxiety. I think that's going to be a long term thing for me. I've done all sorts CBT, I've seen hypnotherapists, all sorts. But my anxiety is manageable, I would say.
You said was it
Yeah, so
CPT, like
yeah,
Pat, Tom?
yes, exactly that.
What's CPT? What's
So it's
CPT?
cognitive behavioural therapy, basically teaching you how to best work out a bad situation, how to cope.
Oh, CBT.
Yeah, CBT.
CBT. So can you give me an example, like what it is? Like tell me more about it.
Yeah, so when you basically just talk about what type of personality you've got, so do you immediately think of the worst, and then they will help you work out how to actually change that thought process and learn how to actually think in a different way. So if you have a bad situation, maybe actually spin it around and think about maybe the positives that could come out of that situation, or actually is the situation as bad as you think it is. So it's just ways of thinking about scenarios and how to cope with them.
I love it. So it's like, am I naturally a negative thinker when I look at a freshly painted wall, do I see the freshly painted wall or do I see the tiny little bit at the bottom that was missed? And that's all I can see.
Yeah, because you
And having
look at like that, and then actually, is that little bit on the bottom of the wall that bad?
right,
And you live with that.
right. So it's like watching my mind. I put everything, I try and put it in terms of me. I think I try not to use the word you for anyone in the world, just because I don't like to be you'd, or shoulded on. Yeah. So what I'm hearing is it's a rewiring of the brain.
Oh,
Like
definitely. Yeah.
I see, it's like putting a new pair of glasses on. It's like I see the world with my eyes, and my eyes when I relate. I have this too. I've had this for a long time, and I've been working on it for many years too. Like my natural instinct is to find fault
Yes.
and to see negative things and not to see the beauties and the wonders, and it's a complaining mind, and it's very uncomfortable to be in that space of comparing, complaining, and to have that shift though,
Yes.
where it gets quiet and it's just not chattering about complaining and whatever. It is a huge shift, and it's a lot of work. Well, it has been for me.
And I think negativity, like I've always been told when I go to these sessions, is our natural state because we have to be negative to actually survive. So it is a positive thing, but it's also when you're always negative, it's then
And that's a really huge thing you said, to survive, because the what I part of my journey was learning about the survival instincts: fight, flight, freeze, and then fawn, and to constantly be stuck in those states. Yeah, it could make me have negative thinking. And especially in England, right, I just want to say I learned something recently, and it's about sarcasm,
yeah,
and how sarcasm, I mean, it's so funny, like that nobody can do sarcasm like the English. No one can joke. I mean, it's just the best sarcastic humor. And I come to America and I'd be sarcastic, and they were like, "What?" They kept so offended. I was like, "No, it's being sarcastic."
yeah.
And actually, I learned it from my wife as well. Actually, originally, she's like, "That's not nice." But it's kind of part of the culture in England.
It is. You
Pardon?
truly mean it when you're being sarcastic. Not truly. You don't truly. You
Pardon?
are being mean.
You don't truly mean it, but I mean, there isn't really a positive sarcasm, really. I've not experienced it. It's always like there's some negativity behind it.
Yeah, I think that's just us.
That's just, yeah, it's just the way of the humor. So you went to a hypnotherapist. What
Yes.
was that like? I've never done that. Actually, I'm really curious on that.
Yeah, so it wasn't like how people perceive hypnotherapy. It was more about forgetting what's happened in the past. So we're putting that aside. We're not thinking about what's happened. We're now thinking about how we can improve your behavior now. So I actually went to hypnotherapy for sleep issues because of my anxiety. And it was probably one of the best types of therapy I've ever been to. It really changed my thought process because actually, like you said with negativity, she made me write down a gratitude journal every night just to write about the things that I was grateful for, but also to write 10 things that have happened in my day that were positive. So, not just thinking about the big positive things, the big gestures people do. It was more about looking at small things like someone smiled at me today or someone says thank you. So, when you shift your thought process to just thinking of those small positive things, everything changes. The negatives become less and you start looking at your day in a completely different way. So I think the hypnotherapist I saw was probably one of the most positive things that I have done to this day.
Do you have that hypnotherapist information still handy?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, we'll get that from you, and we'll put that in the show notes resources,
Yeah, she was brilliant.
and we'll definitely share that. Amazing. So that was one of the best things. And then how's your sleep now?
Actually, it's still bad. So, but the whole situation with the hypnotherapist was amazing. In general, just changing my perception of, like you were saying, negativity and actually appreciating life more. The whole reason I went was the sleep, but that's, I think, going to be an ongoing problem because of my anxiety in general. But it was so positive as a whole.
Any other big life-changing things like the hypnotherapy that you've done that helped a bunch?
I'm trying to think. Well, university was one. That was the first time I actually told a whole group of people about my hair loss, and it felt so freeing. So that was the first time I had spoken out about my hair loss when I was at university, and because I was terrified of people finding out. I mean, I didn't really tell people. So the first time I did, it was so freeing just to be able to talk to people about it because I was so secretive. It was just nice to actually just be open.
Can you just give us a picture? Like, what was the year? What were you in a room? Like, what did the room look like? How many people? Can you just describe it like a little quick story for us?
Absolutely. So it was, we were just in a lift actually, and I just bought a new wig, and the wig happened to be slightly longer than the wig I was previously wearing. And they said, "Oh, I really like your new hair." And obviously, because it was longer, they were a bit confused. So I just come out with it. I just said, "It's a wig." And then the conversation went on and said, "Oh, why are you wearing a wig?" And then I just explained that I had alopecia. I think it was about the time, or I think it was after, but it was around when Gail Porter lost her hair, and I think it might have been slightly after that. So people did know what alopecia was, and they're like, "Oh, Gail Porter had alopecia." I was like, "Yes, she does." So that was the situation. We were literally in a lift, and I just thought, I'm just going to say it, and it was so freeing. It was one of the most freeing things I'd done. But it still took me years after that to talk to other people about it.
So you were in a lift, or also known as an elevator
In an
in
elevator,
America,
yes.
elevator,
Yeah.
and how many people were in the lift with
So
you?
I think there's probably about 4 or 5. So it was our close knit group that were at uni together. I just thought, I'm just going to say it and see what their reaction's going to be, because I was always scared of that moment. I don't like a lot of attention, so I thought, does it look like I'm an attention seeking? I was thinking, and then I thought, but should I be truthful? You've got all these little things going on in your head. But I thought, I'm just going to brave it and see how they react. And it was really good. Their reaction was really positive. They were just wondering, "Oh, this is amazing. Your hair looks great." Yeah, so actually, that was one of the big moments for me in terms of hair loss. And it was just nice to have such a nice group of friends to be able to talk to.
And now you are on this show with me,
Yeah,
and you're 3 months
yeah.
in Instagram. Do you have a separate page on Instagram just for your hair?
So I originally
A
set
separate.
up Instagram for, because I'm a bookworm. So I set up a Bookstagram, and that was one of the triggers to make me have this Wigstagram. So I've got this Bookstagram, and I do a lot of social media, like videos on there, and built my confidence. And I even told people on there that I had alopecia, and they were really nice. So that's when I thought, right, I'm going to make another page after seeing someone else say about Wigstagram. Yeah, so I started out as a bookworm on Instagram, and then went over to wigs after.
So it's all because of books.
Yeah,
Amazing.
yeah.
Books. So what books are you into? Any good ones? Any
I really
favorites?
like fantasy books, but I read most books.
Ah,
I'd give anything a read.
I'm with you on the fantasy books. What any outstanding ones you love to share with us?
I love Brandon Sanderson. So if you like Brandon Sanderson, if you like epic fantasy, you'll love Brandon. I'm looking at my shelves. They're massive.
Do you keep all your books?
Yeah, so I collect them. So I'm a bit like I'm now a wig collector, but I also collect books. So I've got lots of special edition books. One day I'll put a picture up on my Instagram. But yeah, so Brandon Sanderson is a fantasy author I would definitely recommend to everyone.
I'd love to include a picture of your bookshelf on this in this show. That'd be
I
great.
can send a
Um,
bookshelf picture. I've got many.
brilliant. Send them. Send us some of your favorite books. We'd love to see it. So, you've got, what about Harry Potter?
Yeah, I've read Harry Potter. They're not on my shelves at the moment. My shelves are mostly hardback. Yeah.
Gotta be hardback, right?
Yeah, I do like paperback. I prefer reading from paperback, believe it or not, but I like the aesthetics of hardback.
Do you fold pages? Do you write, underline in the books, or do you not touch them?
I can't do that. I can't do it. to keep my books pristine.
I mean, I'm like asking you these questions as if I'm a crazy reader. I'm not. I'm really not anymore. I used to be, well, a long, long time ago. But curious, do you use one of those special reading lamps? Those really cool ones that like turn into,
I have,
all
oh,
kinds of things?
I have got a reading lamp for night time, but I've also got one of those lights that you open up and it's like turns into,
That's what I mean. Yeah.
yeah, I've got one of those, yeah.
Yeah, they're amazing. Those are
Yeah,
so cool.
I do have one of those.
Um, so you've got your book collection and your wig collection and your wigstagram. I never heard of that term, wigstagram.
Well, we call it Bookstagram, so I thought it must be Wigstagram, mustn't it?
Wow.
I don't
Did you? I don't know.
know. I just made
Did you just make that up? You might have just made that up.
I don't know, but yeah. So I've got Wigstagram.
So before we hear about your wigstagram, tell us about your wig collection.
Yeah. So I used to, believe it or not, I used to wear the same wig for years. I think I wore the same wig, one wig, for about 8 years non-stop because I was so scared of people knowing I wore wigs. So obviously I changed it. I used to change it every 3 months because I wanted to look good. But I wore the same style for about 8 years. And then when I felt more comfortable, that's when I started to just experiment. And I've only recently started wearing different coloured wigs. So that's only been the last few months. But I've got a lovely collection, I would say, probably about 10.
10 wigs, and how many are they all human hair or some are
I've got a
synthetic?
mix, so I've got all sorts. So wigs, like I have the hatful wigs that I'd wear with a hat, and I love that. I think that's a really good invention. To work, I tend to just wear synthetic because I work in operating theatres. We wear a wig, a hat, so it really rubs the fibres. So I just tend to wear a cheaper wig to work. But in the day, if I'm not at work, I'll just change my wig. It's quite funny because I'll leave my front door with one wig and then come back with another wig, or I come in and change my wig and then go out wearing a different wig. Yeah, I've never talked to the neighbours about my hair loss, so they must think I'm crazy.
I was just gonna say your neighbors are probably like, I think the guy's having an affair over there. He's got these different, he's got
I
a blonde
know.
coming in now, and there's got a
Yeah,
redhead, he's got a brunette coming in. Like, what's
I
going
know.
on?
Yeah, so I think I've never spoken to them about my hair loss, but I'm sure they know.
Brilliant. Keep him guessing.
Yeah, exactly.
Gives him something to. That's funny. So, your husband and the wig collection. Do you ever, and your boys, do you ever walk around without any hair on, or do you always wear hair?
At home, I mostly don't wear hair, to be fair. So my boys have grown up with me not having hair, basically. I think my cat looks at me funny when I've got hair on. So it's like, I tend to just wear no hair around the house, but it can be a pain because if there's someone at the door and I have to find a wig, there's frantically running around trying to find a wig.
Of your wig collection, are any fully hand tied, or are they all machine made or partially machine made?
I've got a mix, so I prefer a hand-tied wig, just because I am fully bald, so I prefer that feel on my head. But I don't mind open-wefted wigs. I was recently sent a wig from a company that are not reputable. So they've had a really big thing. I don't know if you've heard about this on Instagram. It's been a massive thing that's happened recently on Instagram. So this company, they weren't a nice company, but no one knew this until very recently. And they were sending lots of influencers wigs, and they sent me one, and they showed me a picture of it before they sent it, and it arrived, and I said, this doesn't look like the one that you sent me, and it was that full, the full cap that was wetted, basically close wetted, the whole thing, and it was awful, really awful wig. But yeah, so they've I don't know if you've heard of them, but anyway, they've been sending people wigs, but they've also been taking other companies' pictures and putting it on their website.
Oh no. Yeah, we've
Yeah,
had that. We've experienced that.
yeah,
We've experienced
it's
that.
awful, and I think so many influencers have felt awful that they've reviewed these wigs for a company that have basically been stealing content from other companies. So that was awful.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is this company England, based in England or Europe or in the Americas
No,
or?
so they're Asian company and they've got multiple companies. So that's another thing that came out recently, was that they're under two names. So someone thought they were reputable and they weren't, basically. But that's been a big thing on Instagram recently.
Yeah, I mean, we don't need to say the name of the company or companies just because,
Yeah.
you know,
I think
don't
people
want to do
know. If
gossip,
anyone
right?
from Instagram's watching this, they'll know.
I'm definitely going to ask you after this,
Yeah,
but but it's just not okay to steal, you know, it's just not okay to take other people's pictures and say that they're yours. I mean, it's just not okay. And there's also what else it does is we've, you know, in the past we've definitely had a lot hired models for shoots
I
and
know it's
there's like
expensive.
agreements.
Mm,
Yes, there's agreements with models
yeah,
and modeling agencies as agreements. So if I was, you know, it's very clear, like you cannot use this for advertising. You can only use this on your website or even as only back catalog website, or you got to pay a licensing fee every year,
exactly.
you know.
Yeah, I know.
So, so it, you know, then someone takes it and puts it around. It can really put companies that are actually doing shoots in a lot of trouble. And there's something I heard that one of those lines I heard that has stuck with me all my life. And it was I was in Manchester, England, and I met an architect, some fancy architect for something. I had a project in another business to do and whatever. He said to me, you know, the building I'm going to try not to go into it so detailed, but
Yeah,
he said the project wasn't ready. It just needed some things, and I was kind of getting ahead of myself. I was like, "Hey, can we talk about this thing?" And he says, "No, it's not ready yet to be done." And I said, "Well, can we just start doing something or what?" And he says, "I can't do this right now until these certain things are fixed, right?" Which I was fixing anyway. And he said, and I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because we only have one reputation.
yeah, it's true.
That's it. One reputation. And, you know, once it's really hard to build back a reputation, you know, if you do something dishonest or something like that. So, anyway, long story just to get to that point. But,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
I love that. So, we've got to be very careful, you know, posting things
absolutely.
on social media or whatever we're saying, you know, the universe is a way of bringing it back, you know, dishonesty and stuff like that. So, I'm glad you brought that up. I will definitely ask you more about that. But really, the show is about you today, Kristina, and the power and strength and the growth and that word that Brene Brown uses, vulnerability, the power of vulnerability.
Yeah,
You know, the beauty of what you've given today is that this video is going to last, and there's going to be so many people you will never even know who they are that you helped
yeah, I
from
hope so.
being vulnerable in this. Yeah, definitely. You know, I've given you some compliments. You know, you deserve them fully, even if you can't take them yet. I understand, but you you've done amazing, and this has been really, really fun interviewing you. I mean, we didn't know each other, and I got to be blown away by your story as I'm hearing it for the first time. So thank you so much for everything.
Thank you.
And I want to close with one more question.
Okay.
Question I ask often, somebody brand new to hair loss. Three things. What are three things you would tell? The first three things that come to your mind that could help that person.
For me, I think the number one thing is find the hair loss community, because surrounding yourself with people that have experienced what you're going through really truly helps. So that's the first thing. And I think the second thing is to not be hard on yourself. So you don't have to tell people that you have hair loss if you don't want to. You don't have to tell, you don't owe that to anyone. So you tell people if you're ready and when you're ready. That would be the second thing. And I think the third thing is just love yourself for who you are, because you're a great person. and you're still the person you were. Just because your hair might be falling out doesn't mean you're changing as a person. So just believe in yourself and stay true to yourself, and that's all I would say.